How do organizations impact with their DEI initiatives? No? I'd like to talk in behalf of Cebuana Luwiner Foundation because DEI is really embedded in our ecosystem. And as President CEO mentioned, DEI is the DNA of our organization. So we measure impact in terms of, let's say, the number of marginalized and vulnerable sectors served and the number of lives touched. For example, in the case of Cebuana Luwiner, we are the major partner of the Department of Education in Alternative Learning. So what are the sectors being served by Cebuana Luwiner? These are indigenous people, persons with disability, and other sectors, and the number of lives being touched by this initiative. So these are the outcomes or key indicators of our DEI initiatives. It's also embedded in our business I would say business model. Like for example, in insurance, we actually promote inclusive insurance. So the number of sectors being served. Before there was no coverage specifically for women, for minors. So we came up with FemCare. We came up with Minors Protect. Even pet insurance we have Cebuana Luwiner. The only product we don't have is actually I don't care. I would say brand of Cebuana for insurance is all care, which is student care, employee care, TODA care, teachers care. We don't have I don't care. The other officers of LCF are actually here. You may want to have some questions as well. Shem and Edric.
Okay, sorry, we only have 5 minutes, so
Sure.
at 10 we can wrap up. Okay, questions for...
Mr. Calma,
Hi, sir.
who's filling the gap for the USA?
We just found out na there's a Canadian aid, no, na parang willing to sustain the projects for some of the education projects that USA started. So, yun ang hinahanap din namin. Tsaka yung European Union that you were mentioning. And then yung paglabas ng mga local, mga grant-giving organizations. So, nandyan lang pala, existing, hindi naman napapansin because there are bigger grants than like USA, no? So, yun, parang ang ganda kasi may sumasagot. We just have to be very creative sa paghanap ng fund sourcing.
Sir, Shem, do you have any policy recommendations to the Philippine government on how to foster, I guess, better DEI focus CSR programs?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is like in a lot of cases with we actually have a lot of good laws in place. The question is about executing and just making sure it's done. Again, from the I was talking earlier when I was doing my little speech up there about how I looked in one specific sector, and I think with every sector it requires more depth in order to look at. But I think because we do have laws that students with disabilities need to have their education addressed. But in a lot of the laws, there's a lot of good intention, but there aren't a lot of specifics. And what I saw in our own case in Cebu for this one sector, and again, the whole point of diversity is that each sector is different, so it would require more in-depth research. But like in the case of say deaf students, I would encourage more resources to make sure that in an island of
Funding, sir, but when you say resources.
funding, but also where is that funding going? To teaching more teachers how to interact with deaf students, learning more, having more teachers learn FSL, or setting up more programs that are addressing this one need in particular. So, like I said, there are 2 public schools in Cebu that offer senior high school, and they're for deaf students, and they're limited to 10 students to each school. And that's not enough. And then but also looking at how technology can be incorporated. There's a lot of even free technologies now where, say for deaf students, and if their resources are digitized, then, you can have in programs that read out loud the text on the screen so that deaf students can participate. So I'm talking a lot about deaf students because this is what I started my research into last year, so I know a little bit more about that. But the whole point of diversity is that there's so many subsectors and you cannot do a one approach for all different needs, So it would take a lot of work. But it surprised me because that deaf friend that I had at university, for him, he had at least up to the basic education, and they do accommodate that. So we can definitely see what's been done in other countries.
So how about tax incentives and exemptions? Are foundations being taxed by the government currently?
It depends. Most of our membership is PCNC accredited, so we're actually tax deductible. But you have to go through that accreditation process in order to be tax deductible. So I think only about like 1 to 2% of all registered nonprofits in the Philippines are PCNC accredited. So the rest have donor tax when it goes to them. But among us, we're good.
Would you recommend, sir, blanket tax exemption for the government?
Oo, delikado naman yun, di ba? So, sinasabi ni Shem, no, yung PCNC, so Philippine Council for NGO Certification, certified ka kasi it's easy for the government to provide the tax exemption, ganyan, for the things that we do, for the things that we earn. Kaya lang, for all the other NGOs and all the other foundations, ito delikado. Nangyari na sa atin before yung mga hoax foundations.
So okay na sa inyo yun, sir? Wala kayong hiling?
We're okay with that. We have to comply with the government requirements. So to make sure that things are being followed.
But with regards to, again, going back to the thing that I was researching, I was very surprised to find out that when you hire people with disabilities, there are tax benefits to corporations hiring people with disabilities. I think half of there are only half of their salary is taxed for income tax. But then I also found out that the process to get that and to like prove that they are people with disabilities is a very long and difficult process.
So yun na lang, sir,
So
improvement sa process.
yeah, so mainstreaming the process and making it faster so that the tax incentives that exist can be more readily applied.
Sir, yung mga disabilities that's related to mental health, do you think we need to work on that? Yeah.
One thing I know that is being done more, but I don't think by as a requirement, but more as like it's becoming a standard in the private sector. I know it certainly happened in our own company, where every year we have mental health seminars as part of what HR does in terms of professional development, and more people are recognizing that it is a necessary part of healthcare, and there have been changes ever since. I think it was Senator Hontiveros, 4 years ago, passed the Mental Health Act, and that's been part of like promoting it among HR practitioners. And now HMOs do include some level, not complete, of mental health coverage. So I think it's improving, but of course, not just in business, but as a country, there's still an underappreciation for mental health. And a big part of that is also that, once you say, hey, we need to think of our mental health, we do have a lack of qualified mental health practitioners. So that's also the thing. Even if you recognize that there's a need, if there isn't a professional environment to accommodate that need, then it's like, so okay, we recognize mental health, where are we going to go? If you're not going to the professionals, then you're going to the internet, and there's a lot of great information on the internet, and there's a lot that is not great information on the internet. So maybe a more cost-effective way is in media literacy, in being able to recognize what are actually professional organizations giving professional mental health advice.
Sir, kasi di ba may business subsectors na they are complaining about benefits that are given to people with mental disabilities.
Are they? We're not. I hadn't read that, so I'll take your word for it because you're the reporter. But like,
Mga restaurant.
oh, okay.
Baka discounts yun. Alright.
Okay, any more questions? None na. Okay. Okay, I think we can wrap up the... Ay, picture na lang daw po. Ulit.